Wilhelmine. Chrysalone. Here. You have a quorum. We also have Mr. Eustace and Mr. Brooks.
All right, we have a pledge. Karen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, we have the approval of minutes from the regular meeting on May 3rd.
Move.
Second. Ken. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I don't think we have any old business, so we'll go right to new business. First up is Nancy.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
After the March election, then we're going to do surveys and consult of look at the polling places to determine if we need an additional poll book. We were hoping that the law might have changed, that they were going to have more permanent polling places, but that's not going to happen. So I did attend the legislative meeting, or Judy attended the legislative meeting, and so now I'm here today to move forward to purchase 300, how many, what's the total?
375.
375. We have 300 polling places, and then we need additional poll books for my office, my staff to have one at each of their desks. So when we're getting calls, that we'll be able to walk these judges through it. Last election, we only had maybe 6 or 7 that we were sharing, but that didn't work out. We each need to have our own poll book. And then we have field techs that are out in the community, and we want to give them a tablet too, because if there's long lines, they could go up to those the voters in line and say, are you registered or not? My goal for the last election was we had 2 poll books. One line was supposed to be for people that are registered, and then the other line was for the people that didn't get registered. But everybody got merged in together. So now we're making big signs, we're posting signs, but we're going to have a separate table totally with just that one poll book on if it gets approved. And then so we're going to have 3 poll books at each of the polling places.
So you don't think that if we did the big sign with one of the 2 we have now, we'll be able to handle it?
No, because I'm expecting this election, the primary election, we had over 45% turnout, and I'm expecting it to double. And even though, did I think you get your voter's card in the mail? Yes. Okay, great. But did you notice on the back of the voter's card, I added an additional, would you like a vote by mail to go to your home? And just yesterday's mail alone, we got 300 requests that people want to vote by mail. So I still expect a big turnout for the November election, but we're trying to eliminate those long lines. We know that's coming for November. So,
Jim?
I was just going to say is, I'm the last election, that primary election, I think I'm actually at least in my township, and I do visit every single polling place in my township during the election. There were problems because they were all in the same line. The lines were too long, and people were walking out.
right.
And because they were taking all this time with people who weren't registered, which I thought was kind of ironic, you know, that the people who were registered were leaving, and the non-registered people were staying.
Yeah, right. It did the opposite effect of what it was supposed to do.
Yes.
Instead of getting more people to vote, they were turning them away.
Right.
So we don't want that to happen in our county. We really want people to be able to vote. So
If this solves that problem, I'm supportive, and I don't like spending additional money, but I definitely think there should be a separate line.
And this is the year that we have to train all of our election judges. And then when they pass the law, we normally recommission our judges in between the summer and the fall election. But since we had to implement the poll books, we had to train all of our judges in March. And then I still feel that my judges need more hands-on training, and we have to still train them for November. So we're setting up in our office in the lower level. We're setting up training downstairs, so they're gonna have additional hands-on training to how to, so maybe that will even go quicker for the judges. That will build up their confidence, so they're gonna be coming in for additional training too. So that's why we even have to have those poll books now, so we're setting them up in the lower level. We're utilizing our downstairs. But that's gonna cost us more money. But it has to end somewhere because
Yes, it does.
It has to end somewhere.
Good
because
statement.
We have to start thinking this, but we have, not only am I just buying these poll books, but you're talking about the maintenance on it, you're talking about the hardware, you're talking about buying extension cords again. I keep bringing up extension cords, but everything has to be plugged in.
And the extension cords are just $6,000.
$6,000 just for extension cords. And then to retrain all these judges again, if they are getting a refresher, it's an additional $15 that now they're gonna have to get trained. So it's just not purchasing these poll books, it's all the other package that goes along with this. And I'm worried about even getting through this year's budget.
But Nancy, as we get to, you know, like in some states where 35% of the votes are early votes, either by mail or just early voting, shouldn't that give us some relief at
Yes, it
polling
should.
places?
And I thank
I
God
mean,
that,
that's really probably the answer ultimately.
Right.
but I thank God that we consolidated precincts when we did. There was a blessing that we did that, because remember the days we used to have 445 precincts in Will County, and people were complaining about that because of larger precincts, but now people have their choice. They could vote by mail, they could go to their early voting sites, or they still could go to the polling place.
Countywide, how many votes were early in the last general election?
3,000, wasn't it?
Well, I don't see
and
those
then
figures. I didn't bring those figures, because I'm coming executive too. So I'm gonna talk about that on the executive.
I know in my township, it was close to 20%.
Yeah, it's increasing.
So,
So I thank God for my early voting sites, and I want people to take advantage of vote by mail, so that nobody has to complain.
the only other thing I think people need to educate when they vote by mail is that when they receive that ballot, that does mean that they would have to do, they're not supposed to be voting on
No, you only,
election day.
no,
And if they show up at the polling place, they'll be told they've already
they're gonna be a provisional ballot.
original ballot.
Right. Well, you only get one vote in this county. You can't go
Well-
vote early, you can't go vote by mail.
You're thinking
you
of
can't go to
Cook
the
County.
polling
Yeah.
place.
No, what I'm saying though is I don't think people always understand that when they get the ballot in the mail, that this is the way they're gonna have to vote, or they're gonna have to be a
Provisional.
provisional ballot on election day.
But the only, the
I would
saving.
make sure people know that.
The saving grace is that we have the poll book, so if anybody did vote by mail, early voting sites, it's flagged in red, that they're
Right.
highlighted in red, that they can't vote again, and so the judges are alerted that they won't be able to get a ballot.
All right, I saw Melissa drop the budget book when you walked up. So.
I know, Melissa, thank God.
Rashawn's gonna have to catch me. Nancy, this was obviously not budgeted for, so the only thing I would make a suggestion, and I will talk to Rashawn about this, perhaps you guys take care of this within your budget, and we'll take care of when you go over during the budget cleanup. I don't have any other suggestions right now, because, I mean, this is almost, this is a $500,000.
Oh, yeah. And
You're not gonna have that.
We're not gonna get that money,
No.
no.
But we'll take care of it during the cleanup, and that way Rashawn and I can put our heads together before then, and have a plan.
Okay, anyone else?
Because we don't have one right
No,
now.
I know.
No. So that's the suggestion.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? So do you want to move this forward? Motion. Moved in second.
She's gonna take it out of her current.
Right, it's going to take our current budget, right?
She's
so
gonna
we
take
need
care of it out of her current budget, and
Just
we'll take.
I
that
normally-
just that we recognize that we're going to have to give you money
Cleanup.
down the line.
Yeah, because I always live within my budget, so I don't like to be over budget, but
You
this
will go
time I have
over
to.
this time, Nancy.
Okay.
Especially with the additional
I'm good.
training, that's not in there either.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
As long as everybody-
Turn your red.
After this, no more poll books.
Yeah, I'm off.
This is it.
Thank you, thanks. Thank
All right, thanks. All right, next up, we're going to discuss preliminary financing schedule for the Will County projects. Victor, Leslie, Karen, you can come up.
Oh, I'm comfortable right here.
You can see it better up
There's
here.
an empty
There's another
seat
chair
there.
right there. We want you here.
Karen, you should be up there.
All right. So today, I think what we want to do is we're going to talk about our plan to start the bonding process, and talk about what's happening right now in the county and where we think we should start making improvements.
So there are a few things that you should consider. One, the market, it's, the current rates that are in the market. Two, your project schedules and what you're going to be needing in near, not just this year and next year, but you should start thinking about 2018, because we kind of build a pool for 2017, 2018. And three, how you want to stage this. The ordinance passed last month allows you 275 million. Not expected that you'll need all of it, but you should start to stage it of how much do you need today for 2017 and maybe the first quarter of 2018, and then stage it so that you can either issue in 2018 for 2018 and 19. And Karen has actually outlined some of her thoughts, and the board has also given me some thoughts. We've, but the thought process is that we have the sheriff's facility, the courthouse, the radio system. We did not address the health department or any additional money that the satellite court cells. So there's a few things that are not on the, I guess, list or the project list. But looking at the project list, you'll probably need about 100 million in funds for 2017 and a little part of 2018. Little flexibility. You throw in some of the others, it may go up to 140 or 150. So the proposal is that we start to look at it now. If you want to capture today's rates, we don't think that the feds will actually raise rates, short-term rates, until later this year. And we're talking more October, November, December. There's according to the markets, there's about 2% probability that they'll raise rates in July, 25% probability they'll raise rates in August. And it goes to about a little under 70% that they'll raise rates before the end of the year. We're suggesting that we tee up to at least be ready to come to the market somewhere in July. July is a great month to come to the market because many of the redemptions are in July and in January. In fact, Will County pays in July also. So we think it's going to be a very good month to issue bonds. It's not a lot of bonds according to the market, so 100 million to 150 million should not be too difficult for the market to absorb, even in midsummer.
Jim, I'm ready.
Well, first off, even though I know the answer to some of these, but I'm going to answer the questions anyway. Once we borrow, we have a timetable that we should spend those funds. You know, I've heard different numbers, 3 years to 5 years, as long as you're moving the project forward, you have up to 5 years. Is that about what the number is?
Yes. Now this is basically IRS rules.
Right.
When you draw it, state tax exempt. The key thing is that you actually have a project schedule, and you there are certain conditions of how much you should draw each year. But the prime example is Met Pier when they did their construction. They actually took about 6 years to complete the construction, even though at those times you should have drawn in 3 years. They received IRS exemption. again, the bottom line is to have a pretty well conceived construction drawdown schedule.
So as long as we're into the project, we have up to 5 years to.
Right. You
spend
should
the
draw
money with the
down,
state.
yeah, you should draw down at least 75% in the first 3 years.
Because that does come into play in the timetable,
Yes.
when you borrow and when you're gonna actually be able to spend those funds. You know, I think the market's so favorable currently, you know. I'm thinking we're gonna be 1 3/4 on the high side. I'm putting the pressure on you. I'm thinking we're gonna be 1 3/4% on the high side. That market can change. I think the July scheduling is probably a good time to do it. But I'm gonna get into the amount of money. Should it be 100, should be 100, should be 150, should be 200 million? I actually think that we will, it's such a favorable market, and I don't think it's going to get any more favorable going forward. But, you know, it could, I guess, but should we, and I do think, if I look at all the projects, and if we were using bond funds for the sheriff facility, and we're really getting into spending some funds for the courthouse, even though it's a lot of pre-construction, we're still spending money for that project. We may not get to the bricks and mortar until 18. I'm just wondering, we should be looking at a higher amount, maybe 175 to 200 million, right from the gun. I think that we'll be spending it quick enough, and the carry of that money, you know, even though I don't think we're going to get 1 3/4, I'm going to use 1 3/4 as a number.
Well,
Even though I think you can
let
get
me kind of
about
manage your
1.6.
expectations.
Yeah.
One is that in order to
raise my expectations, right?
well, manage your expectations. First thing is that your 1 3/4 for the forest preserve, they basically had an 8-year maximum
Well, that is true. Maturity's gonna make a difference.
So we're trying to blend it into your current
Okay.
maturity schedule. In order to blend it into your current maturity schedule, you're gonna have to move out to more of the 30-year.
That's
But
true.
the 30-year is currently at the lowest level that it's been for, I'm gonna say, 30 years. It's
Well, it's like one basis point away from all-time low,
1 basis point?
1 basis point.
Well, that's an all-time low.
Yeah, so it's,
100th of a percent.
yeah, so it's at a very low rate. So historically, you're doing very well. And when I say a low rate, you should expect around the 4% or not the 1 3/4. But still, who has a mortgage?
Come on, hey, Victor, come on.
I'm just trying to manage your expectations.
I understand what you're saying. And you're right, I mean, that was that's short.
This is gonna be-
That's short term.
This is going to be
This is gonna
back-ended.
be-
Your average life is going to be closer to about 28 years.
Well, the other opportunity though is that we can always redo those.
Yes, you can
later,
always
get a more favorable
refinance.
market, then, and that, so we will put more money on the higher percentage on the
Right.
back end. So we'll have opportunities to deal with that later. I'm, the
Right.
board will have. So I guess I'd like to have maybe just, I think going to the 200 million, which I think we're going to need, I mean, we're going in with a very aggressive budget number on the courthouse, a number that may not give you the complete build-out we're looking for. Then we'll have to have another discussion whether it's time to do it now or later, as far as that further build-out. So I do think that I'd rather see us get closer to 200 million. I think the overall, even though we'd be carrying money and paying interest, we'd be earning some. The treasurer's not around here, is he?
Yes, he's downstairs.
And then downstairs, I mean, we could look and say, well.
You want me to
for
get
that
it for
period-
you?
period of time? Well, not really, I'm just gonna speculate, okay?
Yeah,
Let's
actually,
just say
Brian-
he's gonna be able to earn a 1 to 1.25%.
Right.
I think minimally on that money.
Right.
Because he will be able to tie it up for at least a couple of years. So I do think the interest, the carry of the money would be a wash, I think. Very close. It wouldn't cost as much to carry the money.
Now,
I don't think.
Brian McDaniel is the chief investment officer downstairs. He's been getting around that 1.75.
So that would kind of neutralize the interest cost carry the interest. I'm not saying that very well, but anyway, you all know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to talk like valedictorians. So I'd like this committee to consider taking what I think would be the full amount for the courthouse and the sheriff's facility. But the idea that we talked about using cash reserve or cash for the sheriff's facility, and we can still do that. If we do that, the 200 million would be enough, I think, really to start to help the department also.
Well, and that's, I think,
Which I'd like us to get started on.
yeah, and I think Reagan will bring that up in her meetings, that, you know, now that we've got some of this out of the way and we're full steam ahead, we need to accelerate what we're doing and get the programming going on the health department, because that building certainly needs to start, so we need to be better off starting sooner than later, get that team together, right? Herb, did you have?
No, I think I understand. Well, let me just ask you, you mentioned in the beginning, Victor, about July, a possible rate increase. And I guess my question was going to be, how much of an increase do you speculate, and or how would that affect our projects that are on down the road? And I think Jim kind of hit on some of that. That's why I turned my light up. I understand.
I think July is the most favorable time.
It's a good thing.
There's too many speakers on, that's why I won't go on.
I was gonna ask.
There's only about a 2% probability that they're going to raise rates in July, according to, I guess, the market and how they're looking at it. I actually don't think they're going to raise rates until very late this year. And it's hard to tell if you listen to the chairman yesterday. She's hedging all her bets.
Yeah.
The headline this morning was hawkish, dovish. No one knows. But I suspect it's going to be, it's not going to be anything out of the extraordinary. It'll be more like a quarter raise. I think she's going to, when she moves, she's going to move very gradually and try not to shock the system. There are already criticisms that the last move of the quarter shocked the system, and that's why we're having such a low, I guess, job rate, growth in job rate.
I don't know which one, like first?
Right?
I just had a question. What does the health department fit in on this project? I know that it's not built into these numbers.
Well, it's not built into just these preliminary numbers, but the 275 that we initially talked about, it's built into those numbers, as is the northern courthouse. But they're built into the overall numbers we talked about.
If I may, I don't interrupt, but if we use if we're using the RTA funds, which we talked about, for the shared facility, and we talked about using cash for a lot of that project, I think the 200 million, you would be including the health department, at least the start. You would definitely get I think the design team in. You could even get some preliminary design. You could probably bring on a CM with that money. So I mean, I think it gets you into the project. I think pretty. I don't want to say. I think there's all the pre-construction in these. So it gets you to the brick and mortar of the health department. And I think Reagan's gonna talk about this later. She's talking about starting the health department project now, which I think we would do. But I do think the 200 million gets us to that. That's my opinion. But we're not forgetting the health department. I think some of this would be.
Anything else? Ray?
Thank you. This kind of goes back to exactly what I was talking about a few months back when I wanted the committee to really look at funding a very large portion up front. I don't believe it's good for any government body to be in the speculation business, especially when you're dealing with taxpayer dollars. So we're speculating a lot of things, whether it could go up, whether it could go down. But what you just said, you're at historic lows. We're at 1 basis point, which is 1/100th of a percentage point off of the lowest all-time rate. I think at this time, if we don't bond out the $200 million, we'll be very foolish. Because we may look back, even our sheets that say 4, 4 1/4, even over 5 years, that we could go up a percentage point only a percentage point. By bonding it out early, it still saved us over $12 million in our estimates. And that was at the rates when we talked last time. Now it's even lower. I think we have the opportunity here, we should take it because we may miss out on a good opportunity to save taxpayers quite a bit of money.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Yeah, do we need, we don't really have, go ahead.
So I'm looking for marching orders. How does what's the process with the committee and how do you want to move forward?
I will, we can direct you to start the process, right? And then,
I mean, I don't, you can always change the amount before you go to market.
Right.
But I still think you should be,
I would just like Victor and Leslie to maybe provide us what the debt service will look like at 100 and 150 and 2. Yeah, because I think before when we did our preliminary draft stuff, we were talking about staging. Now we're talking about doing the whole 200 at once. I just want to make sure we're able to make that and that we're not pushing it all into year 28.
Okay.
Because we were looking to pay off some of the...
We were hoping that stuff would fall off.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure it's staged or staggered, however you want to, so it's doable for us.
Yeah, Ray first.
I was just gonna say, I think we need to get better direction because we don't have a finance committee meeting in July, and if they're planning on going out for some July, we're gonna take that something.
well, I would say, Victor, you had mentioned that generally on a timing basis, the best times to go to market is in July and December. And I think, I don't think there's gonna be a big difference in July and December. I don't. But even though if they're gonna raise it, it will be in December. The Feds, if they're gonna raise it, it's gonna be in December. Now, the other question I would have, even if the Feds raised 0.25%, I don't think it's gonna have much of an effect on long-term money, 30-year money, do you? I'm asking, it has less of an effect on the short-term or long-term money?
It will have more of an effect on the short term. You're correct. Long-term money doesn't necessarily go along with Fed rate hikes. But we have seen in the past more of a parallel shift because it indicates, I guess, a trend in what the Fed is thinking of and where the economy is going. And so when they generally raise rates, they give you, again, a schedule of how they're going to raise rates later, and that does affect the market.
Let me ask you, though, that on long-term money, don't you think some of it's already built in, long-term money? Knowing that they're going to build some in expectation of rates will go up.
Well, Jim, I'm
not
necessarily a waging person.
I know, I found that out, actually. I am, by the way. So
I'm willing to say that I would be willing to wager on the higher rates in the near future than on lower rates. I think we've hit bottom, and rates are going to be going up. And I also, something that we heard from the chairman yesterday, is that they're watching inflation carefully, and there's a feeling that inflation is dipping over the 2% rate.
I agree.
Okay, so that's another factor.
And let me ask you another question. The actual cost of issuance. You know, I'm just going to keep it simple. I mean, does it cost us twice as much to do 100 and 100?
No.
It's 200? I mean, I'm asking, you know, there is a cost to...
There is a cost. It doesn't cost you twice as much.
Okay.
It'll probably cost you, I don't know, 30% more.
So the percentage goes down the bigger the number.
Well, there's two things that you pay for. The fixed cost, the fixed cost is the legal cost.
Right.
The legal cost does go up as council is signing for a larger liability.
Yeah.
Okay. The other side is we charge you on a per bond basis. So the higher you go up, you have a fixed amount in order to actually sell the bond.
Well, here's what I think I'd like to see is if Karen, exactly what you asked of them, you put that together, you start the process. I think I'd like to move this to executive, if it's okay with you, since we don't have a finance in July, so that we can get it approved in July and get it on the July county board. Makes sense?
Yep.
Right? Everybody good with that?
So we'll put that together, and then we'll give you a schedule, and with Karen's department, we'll figure out the debt service, and then we'll come to you, and we'll come to the executive.
No. All right, great.
Well,
Good.
let me ask this one question. So you don't need to take action, you don't need to take action here. I still think maybe a recommendation from this committee to the executive committee to consider up to $200 million. You're all going to be at that committee. For those of you who aren't aware of it, all the committee meetings are going to be done at executive in July because of the 4th of July holiday. So all the business will be done there, but everybody should come to that meeting. I'm just wondering, does this committee, should they give some direction? No.
I'd make that motion.
All right, so you want to make a motion to that effect?
Yep.
You're my second?
Well, what's the motion? The motion
Motion
is...
is,
To consider up to $200 million.
I am a second on that.
okay,
That's when you will, because we're going to get more information.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Please show me some.
Motion carried, thank you. Thank you, Victor, thank you, Leslie, now you got the hard work, right?
Right.
And Karen.
And Karen. Thanks, Victor.
Get out the calculator. All right, next up is transferring funds within the community health center budget. Sue?
Hi, just a housekeeping item.
Yeah. Everybody take a look at that and just,
We need to be able to count some dollars out of the capital line, just because that's the appropriate place for it. We don't have any left in the capital account, so we want to transfer from one of the 3,000 series.
okay. Everybody good with that, Ms. Sonic?
Second.
Okay, moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Wasn't that easy, Sue?
I like that one. That was a good one.
Sue was due for an easy one.
I didn't want to come up there.
We owe you that.
And now Julie, come on up. This is authorizing approval of supplemental allocation from the OIC for adult leave.
Vice Chairman Bonnefield, thank you for allowing me to come back. I did not rehash all the information about how the special reports and ARI save the county money. I think we showed that, and I totally understand that it is not the county's responsibility to fund the state programs. However, I think we've come up with a reasonable solution. The Supreme Court of Illinois, the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, has made a supplemental allocation to Will County in the amount of $335,551.39. Chief Judge Changstead and John Prinzy here, the Director of Court Services, have had ongoing conversations with the AOIC in regards to using this supplemental allocations for the specialty courts. The specialty courts are an integral part of the mission of the 12th Judicial District, and the Will County Court Services, which many of you know is probation, is planning on expanding their resources into all of these specialty courts. The specialty courts themselves are consistent with the mission of the AOIC, and the AOIC has indicated that they're supportive of the specialty courts, and they recognize that this supplemental allocation is essential to fund the services for this at-risk population. Of the 200 specialty court participants that we have, at least 112 of them do receive some sort of adult redeploy services. The budget impasse in Springfield has left us in a vulnerable position of being not able to provide these services if funds are not made available. We are therefore requesting, we being John Prinzy from Court Services and Judge Shane said that an entire supplemental allocation be transferred into the specialty court, the drug court specialty court fund to fund these essential services for all of the specialty courts. This is not a loan. This is not to supplant what the adult redeploy funding is. It is important to the community at large. I think we've shown that it's not only financially advantageous to the county, but also in terms of human services and in terms of the community at large being able to have these specialty court programs. So these funds would be used to enhance the programming across the board for the specialty courts.
This is a great save.
Absolutely.
Everybody on board?
So
Said.
moved. Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Great
carries.
job.
Second time is the charm.
And for all of you that came out to relay for life on Saturday, thank you so much for a heartfelt thanks for being here.
Thank you for that plug, Julie.
Yeah.
For that plug you gave us. Our special song.
I just wanted to think on my feet.
All right, next up, authorizing county executive to execute necessary documents for delinquent tax program. Do we have a motion? Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I don't think we have any other business, public comment. Any public comment? No public comment. Chairman's report, I do want to say one thing. Starting June 20th, Sean's going to get real busy, and so will Melissa, as they start reviewing the budget process with each department. We all have seen over the last year what's happened with the state. We're going to have to look how are we going to work our budgets without the state at this point, which who knows when that's going to happen. So I know everybody's going to have to really look at how we're budgeting for the future. I want us to certainly be as conservative as we always have been. And I would hope that, well, my intention is we can drive this to the point where we can freeze that tax rate this year. I think that would help our constituents as well as give us enough to work with the budget, especially with some of the construction coming in as well. So, I mean, that would be my goal. We'll see if we can drive to that. And I'm sure we'll be scheduling some budget meetings as soon as we get to that point. But first, we have to let Rashawn and Melissa and them kind of do their work and get everybody in line. You're looking at me? Oh my gosh.
Well, with the healthcare costs, I don't, with the levy staying the same, it's gonna, I don't know how those numbers.
Didn't say the levy was on the state.
I mean, the free.
So the tax rate.
The tax rate.
Tax.
Tax rate, okay.
Right?
You scare me when
I
say
always
that.
scare you. I scare you every meeting, all right? That's what I have to do.
With the healthcare costs, I don't know how we're gonna sustain all that.
Right. It's gonna be tough. All right, anything else? I don't think we have an executive session today. Can I move to adjourn?
Move.
Move, second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.